In today's video on the Smart Penny Pincher, I'm going to review and test these Rahom AAA batteries. These are lithium-ion batteries, and compare them to Amazon Basics nickel metal hydride batteries. The test I'm going to be doing is going to be using a high current device, in this case a flashlight, under real world conditions, and I'm going to run them over and over and over until dead and compare the results. In fact, I did 20 hours of testing and it took me several days. Now, it also comes with a charger, and this particular charger, we've got a USB-C port right here, and it comes with a cable, of course. And this particular charger can only do lithium-ion batteries. I have another video where I have EVLs of a AA size, and that charger includes one that'll do everything. So bear in mind that this particular brand will just do lithium-ion. Okay, now let's talk about price. You can now buy these particular Rahoms in a 16-pack. And in a 16-pack, we're going to pay $24.99 for the charger and 16 batteries, and that works out to $1.56 per battery. Now, the Amazon Basics nickel metal hydride, a similar size that I could find was a 24-pack. That is $16.19 at the time of this video, and that worked out to just 87 cents per battery. But of course, in the case of the Amazon Basics, you're going to have your own charger. So you're paying about double per battery, but including the chargers. So hopefully in a follow-up video, we can find some AAAs, lithium ions that don't have the charger, so we can do a more apples-to-apples comparison. But like I said, this is a new technology, so this is what it's going to be. Now, the rated capacity of the Rahom is 1100 milliwatt hours. Now, if you look here at the rated capacity of the Rahom is 1100 milliwatt hours. Now, that's interesting because almost all batteries that I've ever seen, such as the Amazon Basics and EVL, are rated in milliamp hours. And so I went and did a little math and determined that 1100 milliwatt hours at 1.5 volts corresponds to about, I don't know, 775 or something like that milliamp hours. I'll have to show you in the chart that I have here. Now that compares to 800 milliamp hours out of the Amazon Basics. So from an apples to apples comparison, the Amazon Basics should last just a little bit longer than the Rahoms. Now let's talk about some of the features that you're going to get out of a lithium-ion versus a standard nickel metal hydride. The chemistry here for lithium-ion is approximately, 3.4 to 3.6. 3.6 is going to be the totally charged voltage, but that's a lot higher than, say, a running voltage of around 1.2 to a fully charged voltage of about 1.4 volts on the nickel metal hydride. What does that mean? Is that if you have a couple of nickel metal hydrides in series, something like this, you're going to get around 2.6 volts or something like that. Now you can compare that to the lithium ion. Now you have something that's pretty cool. There is a chip in here that takes that higher lithium ion cell and reduces it down to 1.5. It's called a buck converter. And so it's probably up here in the head. So this regulates the voltage pretty accurately to 1.5 volts. I've tested this. And that means that your sensitive electronics are going to run great because they're always going to be very high at 1.5 volts each, so a total of 3 volts in series. That's really cool. Now there's a second advantage that you're going to have. And let's take a look at these side by side. Let's say that you had a couple of nickel metal hydrides in series and a couple of lithium ions with the buck chip in there. You put these in a high current device like a flashlight, and let's say you're running your nickel metal hydrides and it starts getting dim. And then you keep running it and running it. Well, almost certainly the weaker capacity battery has now gone below its threshold and it's now in like the 0.8 range or something like that. And let's say you don't pay any attention, and you keep running and running and running, and then finally it goes out. Well, what has happened was that you will take this to 0, and that damages the weaker cell. I know this from experience. It's happened over and over again, and it's very hard to catch. And so the way I manage it from a penny pincher standpoint is that I run all of these for a while, and then I immediately recharge them, and I never let them get to 0. But occasionally, you know what? I make a mistake. Now let's compare that to this new technology. I've done this through experimentation. I've been doing this about a week. I've done at least 20 hours of AAA testing, and I also have another 20 hours of AA testing of a different battery, not the Rahoms, but EVLs. And you can see that video. I'll put a link somewhere, and you can watch that video. But what happens when they're in series is this. Because there is a chip that takes the original cell and reduces it down to 1.5, there's also a protection circuit in there, so that when it gets too low, it just shuts the battery off and takes it to 0, and that's fantastic. So the other one is, let's say it's still putting out 1.5 volts, and you got a light, and then what I've seen happen is that your battery will start flickering. Your flashlight will go on and off like this, and on and off. And what it's doing is it's cycling one of the batteries, and it's saying, well, let's try it. No, that's too much high current, can't do it. Too low voltage, and it protects it. So when you take them off, you might have 0 here and 1.4 here or something like that, and then you charge them back up, and they're protected. You haven't destroyed your cell. So I realize that these are double the price, but it only takes a few mistakes with traditional one where you don't pay attention to damage those cells, and then you have a collection of strong cells and weak cells, and it becomes sort of a logistics nightmare. And I think this is why rechargeables, some people just don't like them. But with this new technology with lithium ion, you pay a little bit more up front, but in the long run, they should be a better overall value. All right, so let's get on to the testing. Now, all the tests are done from brand new batteries, brand new nickel metal hydrides in these brand new lithium ion. And so what happens here is that brand new lithium ion batteries need a few cycles in order to start working more efficiently. So I'm going to do a total of 5 runs, and you can see here that we're running about an hour on these first 2 runs, and now we're going to move on, and here is the 3rd run. And in the 3rd run, it immediately got a much better performance. I got 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is double the original run time. And then we moved on to the 4th run. And to my surprise, it went right back down to an hour and 5 minutes. So I was a little shocked to see that. So I went ahead and ran them again, and I immediately got better performance, so 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I'm not sure what happened with run 4, why it would do that, but the data is the data. So now let's move on to the nickel metal hydride Amazon Basics and take a look at those results. Now the first run did quite well, 2 hours and 30 minutes. And that exceeded all of the previous from the Rahom. And we'll take a look at the second one. And the second one was also pretty good at 2 hours and 35 minutes. So run number 3 was quite consistent at 2 hours and 30 minutes. And so we've got 2 more tests. Test number 4 came in at 2 hours and 30 minutes. And test number 5 came in at 2 hours and 35 minutes. So here is all of the data so that we can see it and analyze it. The blue bars represent the Rahoms, the green bars represent the Amazon Basics. You can see that the calculated capacity of the Rahom is about 733 milliamp hours, and the capacity of the Amazon Basic is rated at 800 milliamp hours. So as I mentioned before, we should expect the Amazon Basics to last a bit longer. Now here's the run number. I did 5 of each for a total of about 20 hours of testing. And as I mentioned, lithium ion needs a little break-in period before they start to run efficiently. And so we got a little bit better here and a lot better here. And for some reason, not sure why, we went down to 70. I'll have to investigate that, but that's the data that I resulted, and then went right back to 145. So I think over time we can see that we're going to get somewhere around the 145 minutes capacity after they're broken in. Now, the Amazon Basics performed about the same throughout. They didn't seem to require any break-in period. We went from 155, and then the best one was the last run at 158, but I don't see any clear trend that they got better over time. But the Amazon Basics did beat the Rahoms in all cases, at least for the first 5 runs. I can do a follow-up video and see how they perform over, say, 10 or 15 runs as I get more time. So stay tuned for that update. Summary of how much I paid for them and what they cost. We got the Rahoms and the Amazon Basics. And then here's their capacity, slightly under for the Rahoms. Now I paid about $25. That comes in a 16-pack, which results to $1.56. But bear in mind here that that includes the universal charger. So the cost per cell is a bit lower, but like I said, I couldn't find them without the charger, but I'm sure that will change over time. And then at the time of this posting, I had $16.19 for a 24-pack of the Amazon Basics, which was 67 cents per cell. So I will put links to both of these products in the description below, and if you'd like to support these channels, please buy through my affiliate links. So anyway, I hope you found that helpful, and I'll see you next time.